Hello and welcome to the Fergus Neal Show podcast. Now, before we begin the episode officially, I must say that my management, all members of my family, and each friend I've confided in has told me explicitly that what I'm about to do is a bad idea. That what I'm about to pursue is a bad idea. Career-wise, moving forward, socially, they said, do not go to Canberra. They said, Ferg, do not enter into Bob Catter's office with a microphone, an iPhone camera, and a dream. Don't do it. That's what they said. They said, Ferg, do not go up there. I said, guys, they were all in a room. It was an intervention. I said, guys, this is a moment. All right? A lot of people don't do things for the story enough. In the 60s, you're doing things for the story. The Beatles go to India for the story. They don't have an iPhone. They don't have any TikToks. They just go there for the story. I'm going to Canberra to meet with Bob Catter for the story. He messaged me and said, Ferg, get your ass down to Canberra. We need to clean this shit up. He whispered it like that. He said, shh. He put a finger over his lips. He was on FaceTime. Like, shh. Up. Now, if you haven't heard about Bob Catter, he is our longest serving politician. That's a fact. He's probably our craziest politician. He'll say things and then he'll argue against himself 2 minutes later in the same conversation. He'll bring up something and then we'll be like, didn't you just say that? He's like, no, I hate that guy. What? Isn't that you? He's a philosopher. We don't know where he stands on a lot of issues. We still don't know where he stands on gay marriage 6 years later. We asked him about gay marriage and he started spitting poetry. He said, let 1,000 blossoms bloom, which seems like condoning. And then he said, but I ain't spent any time on it. And we went, what? And he said, because each week, 42 Queenslanders are torn to shreds by crocodiles. We're like, what are you talking about? It wiped our hard drives. We kind of forgot about gay marriage and where Bob Catter stood on that issue. And we're like, what's going on with the crocodiles? 42 a week? 42 Queenslanders are torn to shreds by crocodiles each and every week. Please tell me that's a fake fact. If it's not a fake fact, that makes sense why Bob Catter is pro-arming himself. Wouldn't you want to shoot things in the air as well? Like, wouldn't you want to have that option if, like, each week 42 of your neighbours were getting eaten by reptiles coming out of the rivers into the CBD of Townsville, taking people away? You'd be like, give me an AK-47, a Monster Energy drink, a trail mix, and a good attitude because I'm sick of these reptiles taking away my poker-playing friends. Each Tuesday we meet for poker, and each Tuesday we gamble on who's going to make it to the next poker night because there's so many crocodile attacks. Now, Bob Catter can be divisive, but let me lay your fears at rest. Because this podcast, we have a lot of different political leanings. We have a lot of different swings. I can tell by my message requests. If I showed you my message, if I showed you my message requests on Instagram, you'd be like, why are there full-on libertarians and then also people with blue hair and in their title it says ADHD? They've got every single thing. There's flags that I didn't know were flags. So there's a flag with a turtle on it. I'm like, what's a flag with a turtle on it? It's someone who dresses up as a turtle. Like, I have every single political leaning messaging me with support. And at one point, some of those groups are going to get, can I continue on this? Can I continue making fun of every single leaning? I'm not sure, but we're moving forward with that philosophy because it's too much fun. You know, funniness will always beat politics. If someone does something funny, I don't care if it's my brother. Actually, if it is my brother, I'll make fun of it more. But if my brethren does something funny, I will make a joke out of it. And I think that's a philosophy that everybody should take. It's the same thing with people making jokes about Donald Trump. Yes, it's funny. And then they make jokes about Joe Biden. Yes, it's funny. Jon Stewart did that, and then people get angry at him. They're like, you can't make jokes about Joe Biden. Why not? He did something that was funny. If something's funny, you can say it's funny. That's okay. I think if we took ourselves a bit less seriously, maybe not, but maybe the world will be in a better place than what it is now. Bob Catter will come out and say things and then argue against that position 2 minutes later. He is a walking, nuanced dude. Whenever you argue against him, he'll identify as the thing you're arguing against. And you can't argue against someone identifying because that's how they've identified. And that's one of the greatest power moves he plays. Watch him do it. Watch him do it. Like Bob Katter identifies as Indigenous. I'm 99.95. I'll ask him when I say him. I'm 99.95% sure he's not an Indigenous Australian, but he will be on Q&A talking about Indigenous issues, which if you look at Northern Queensland, the Katter family was the first family to end segregation in Queensland. A lot of people don't know that historical fact. Look at what the Katter family did in Cloncurry, and there are a lot of amazing initiatives and a lot of amazing funding that the Katter Australia Party has moved from government coffers to bettering Indigenous peoples in Queensland. You're not meant to say that. You're not meant to say, hey, maybe Bob Katter did something good, because people in Melbourne, people in the inner north are like, hey, no, Bob Katter's probably, it's like, hey, he may be sure, he's a bit problematic, but he's also raised millions upon millions of dollars for Indigenous causes while you haven't paid tax since 2010. So let's just put this in a little bit of perspective. Let's put this in a bit of perspective. Okay, can we have some perspective? Bob Katter will come out and say something crazy, but then he'll argue against himself, and we should be doing that. Like, we should be like, hey, I think this, and then 2 minutes later going, oh, I was so wrong. I don't think that at all. Not with that level of self-awareness, maybe the level of Bob Katter unawareness, but that makes it fun. That makes it fun. I got sent a BuzzFeed article after I put up a video of me asking Bob Katter on this podcast in 2020. It might still be up, who knows? Have you been bothered scrolling down to 2020? I asked him about that viral clip where he said, may 1,000 blossoms bloom. And someone sent me this BuzzFeed article, which when someone sends you a BuzzFeed article, you know that it's not gonna, they're not a fan. You know, no one sends, is BuzzFeed still going? Can we Google that? Before I read this article, has BuzzFeed shut down? BuzzFeed, has it shut down? Is it gone? Please tell me it's been like, is it? No, it's still going. They just put out an article 7 hours later that says, which is better, Aussie Kmart or American Target? So they're hitting the big issues. That's what's important. They're hitting the big issues. But I got sent an article. It said, sorry, Americans, that funny crocodile politician is wicked problematic. That's the most 2017 BuzzFeed article I've ever seen in my life. If you ever hear someone say the word wicked problematic, know that there's something going on in there. Something is not quite happening in the noggin. The whole internet loves Bob Katter, the lovely politician who hates crocodiles. 5 seconds later, we regret to inform you, Bob Katter doesn't want immigrants coming into Australia. Now, if you talk to Bob Katter about this issue, and it's interesting because Bob Katter's chief of staff, his name is Arun. Like, that's the hard thing about Bob Katter, is that there are so many complexities going on here. Like, Bob Katter will come out and be like, guys, we need to pause immigration. No more immigration into Australia. And if the camera turned a bit left, there'd be a guy called Arun who's like, hey, what's up? You're like, what? This is the most confusing politician ever. I'm glad we're funding him. I'm glad the taxes are going to Bob Katter, but it is confusing. It is confusing. The article goes on to say, by now you've probably seen it, Australian politician and social conservative Bob Katter discussing his views on same-sex marriage, all before abruptly changing course to angrily decry the existence of man-eating crocodiles in his electorate. It's a hell of a video. This is a hell of a journalism. The short clip went viral last week, amassing thousands of retweets on Twitter. You can tell this BuzzFeed journalist's life is Twitter. Like, it's 24 hours a day Twitter. What did Twitter say? Does Twitter love me? Twitter's the new God. Twitter is like, hey, did Twitter, it used to be, did God bless me? Now it's like, did I get retweeted? Did I? It's all that ASMR voice. Did I get retweeted? It comes from some weird chakra. The short clip went viral last weekend with thousands of retweets, endless shares on Facebook, and huge international attention. I get it. He's funny. The dude effing hates crocodiles. Overnight, they actually spelt out effing. Overnight, Katter was even covered by Stephen Colbert on his Late Show. But all of his international attention focused on Katter has largely ignored the multiple controversies that have followed his long political career. It's important that you should know. It's important that should you want to laugh with someone, you at least know how they really feel about things. I've never thought that ever. If I'm just out at a comedy club and I'm laughing, I don't think, I wonder how this guy really feels about the trains. He's making a lot of jokes about trains, but does he think that public transport should be funded? What does he think about trains? What's behind the joke about getting on the wrong train? So sit down, relax, and pay attention. Here are a few doozies. Last year, Katter caused controversy for a campaign ad he released in the US. In the ad, Katter shoots dead two of his political rivals. All right. I've tried, but it is impossible to defend this man, okay? It is impossible. It's impossible, all right? Katter did release a video where he has a gun, he blows a gun, and he shoots two of his... That's too far. That's too... Why? Why would he put a video of that out? Oh, I can't wait to meet his media manager. Oh, his publicist must be the most stressed human being in the world. They're probably on the phone like, Bob, don't click publish. He's like, nah, I've got a video of me shooting our political opponents. Bob, don't do it. Don't do it. And then it just hangs up. Peter, son of a... Like, it's got to be wild out there. All right. Katter also has multiple issues with the LGBT community. It's actually the LGBTQIA plus community. This little bigot. He was angry a few months ago because the word gay had been taken, which meant he could no longer appreciate the word's original poetic meaning. Is this okay, Bob? Okay, he has some wild views, but can we acknowledge he has a good heart? As someone who's met Bob Katter face to face and who was mulling up whether to go and see him in Parliament, does he not have a good heart? Like, he didn't say anything homophobic. He just said, guys, can I still call myself gay? Can I still go out and say, guys, I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling gay. I'm feeling... That's the next viral clip. If I go to Parliament, I'm going to be like, Bob, can we film a video where, yes, we talk about the supermarket duopoly, but we also come out and go, we're feeling gay. Now, recently, after the nation voted yes to same-sex marriage becoming legal, Katter said he would not be voting in the legislation. All right, so an 80-year-old man, okay. I mean, I think his opinion has changed about this. I'm not going to try and defend that opinion. You know, Barack Obama was against gay marriage at one point after he was elected. So times have changed, baby. Is that all we can say? You know, Barack Obama was also against gay marriage. And Bob Katter, I mean, I'll ask him, guys. All right, I'll ask him. Like, Bob Katter, I guarantee if I went up to Bob Katter and didn't try and trick him in a journalistic fashion, if I was like, Bob, do you support the gays? I reckon he'd be like, Ferg, I've always wanted the blossoms to bloom. And then he would just walk away. Like, I think he would honestly be like, yeah, they're good. You know, I don't think he would be like, no, the gays have to go. You know what I mean? Is this making any sense? Am I cancelling myself in real time? We'll never know. That's why podcasts exist. That is why podcasts exist. What happens if we just chuck in Bob Katter into Google? Does something miraculous happen? Like, what comes up? Let's see. Does something... Is Bob Katter left or right? That's the first question. The first question is because you don't know. You don't know with Bob. He just says the most random things and you're like, is he left? Is he right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he stands. Then there's an article that has Bob Katter looking very angry and he's holding a $50 note to camera. It says legal tender rights for Australians in the headlines again, following Bob Katter's cafe cash snub. Who is this man? He's truly going on side quests. Bob Katter is truly going on side quests. A legal academic says the right to use cash could be tested in the courts. Federal MP Bob Katter fired up the headline writers this week after a cafe in Canberra's Parliament House would not accept his $50 note as payment for lunch. Can you imagine being a barista in Parliament House? And you see all the politicians come and they pay pass. You just see a man in a cowboy hat in the distance walking up towards you with a bag full of cash. You're like, oh God, no, not today. Please, not today. And he's like, g'day, can I get a latte? Yeah, give me one of your lattes, your fancy lattes. Bob, we don't accept cash. 24 hours later, it's a media storm for that poor barista. The North Queensland Independent and one of Parliament's oldest politicians clapped back what he called another example of a cashless society that gives all the power to the banks and strips you of your freedom. Holy shit. Can we just break that? I've never thought about it like that. Can we break that sentence down? If you're paying by card, you're paying, like if I use my CommBank app, right? Like on my phone, my money's on there. That means that I can only purchase things through my bank if my bank approves. But then again, I also would have to go to the bank to take out cash. So is that redundant? I can't tell. But then I could also get paid cash by my employer and go around the bank. And now I've just got cash. And when I want to buy something, I don't have to worry about the bank. Holy, is this? How have I not thought about this before? I hope I become one of those super pro cash people who are like, cash is king, baby. Cash is king. We'll never pay tax again. I never thought about it like that. But with only 13% of payments being made in cash these days, that seems still high. It comes as no surprise to some that many merchants offer card-only transactions. So what are your rights when it comes to paying notes and coins? Let me think about that. So if I use my bank card, that's a CommBank card, they could probably just shut that off. Like they could be like, hey, Ferg, no, you can't bank with us. You can't bank with us because you went to Parliament and you met with Bob Catter and you put on a cowboy hat. Holy moly. Guacamole. But if I'm like to all my comedy gigs, I'm like, guys, when I invoice, pay me cash. All right, put it in an envelope. Put the money in an envelope. That'd be kind of sick as well. If we went back to a cash society, would that not be fun? You know when you get paid like $2,000. All right, it was the cost of living crisis. You get paid even $500. Can you imagine in the old days going to pick up your pay, how much more exciting that would be? Like, how much more exciting would it be on a Friday if you had your paycheck in cash? If you had an envelope full of whatever, $100 that you got from working at the milk bar when you were 10 to eat, that's a bit young, but you know, to even like having $3,000 if you're a lawyer and you're getting $3,000 each week. Wouldn't that be amazing to go? That used to happen not that long ago in the 90s. People would go down, they'd finish work on a Friday and they'd probably get paid. They'd go to probably the admin office, or there had to be a cash lady. Oh, where's the cash lady? A beautiful old cash lady who's like, there's your docket, love. Enjoy the weekend. You fill a fat envelope. And also, I reckon when I have cash, I'm more careful with it. Because when I pay pass, I'm not thinking. I go bam, bam, bam. I don't even look at how much they charge me sometimes. I'm definitely being overcharged sometimes. When I have cash, though, I'm like, oh, I don't want to lose this sweet. I'm like Gollum. I'm like, my precious. I don't want to lose that sweet, sweet $50 note. I'm like, the precious, precious monies. And I'm a lot more careful with it. I remember my dad gave me a $50 note when I was like 15 because I worked the whole weekend helping him renovate a house. And he's like, under child labor laws, you worked 50 hours, here's $1. You're like, what? And I went to Baker's Delight to buy a finger bun, which at the time was my personal favorite. And I said, can I please get one finger bun? And I gave him a $50 note. He held it for a second. He said, man, just take the finger bun. Things are free for those that can afford them. Truly. My friends and I, for the next 3 weeks around Warmpond Shopping Centre, would buy a $2.50 piece of sushi. Got to remember, this is 2007 or something. And we'd hand a $50 note and they go, I don't want to change this. Do I want to change this? And they just couldn't be bothered and they just give us the food for free. I think we ate free for like 7 days, but we didn't have a car, so we couldn't go to the same place twice. They catch on to us. But I think for 7 days, we were just walking around, eating, celebrating, living our best lives. Truly, living our best lives. And it was a glorious time to have cash. Now, I see little kids with cards and the parents are transferring the money. That's wild. I wouldn't be surprised if lunch orders now, they don't give cash. They just like, hey, let me transfer you directly. That would be wild. Cash could win in court. Legally, a provider of goods or services is at liberty to set the commercial terms upon which payments will take place, meaning businesses do not have to accept cash. Professor Will Bateman is an Associate Dean of Research at the Australian National University College of Law. He said that while it was not illegal for a business to refuse banknotes and coins. If they did not accept your cash, you could take them to court and could win. This reminded me of a story my dad has where he always carries cash. I don't know if your dad does this. My dad always carries cash and he still catches the bus sometimes, even though he has a car. And on the bus, like sometimes the bus drivers will be like, mate, I can't change a 20, I can't change a 50. And he'd be like, it is my legal right. It is my legal right. And the bus driver just goes, all right, just get on. Just get on, Steve. You're on the bus now. You're free. Go. Like, I can't wait to get old. Truly. I think when you get old, I think just you're liberated from the confines of society. You never hear about like 70-year-olds going to jail. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen a 70-year-old walk into a shop, grab a loaf of bread in a pretty fancy bread shop. This is when I was treating myself during lockdown. Walk out, and the person's like, oh, jeez. I mean, they were old, weren't they? They check in with the customers like, they were old. Yeah, 70-year-old. We're not going to chase down a 70-year-old. Like, that person probably just feeds himself off just walking around. Like, you almost just a non-player character in GTA 6 if you're an old person. Next time, when the next GTA gets released, there should be an old person character who's just above the law. Because the oldies are above the law. They're untouchable. They can't be touched. The Reserve Bank states that if a provider of goods or services specifies other means of payment prior to the contract, then there is usually an obligation for legal tender to be accepted as payment. That's weird. However, Professor Bateman believes that in circumstances where people have no other means of paying for goods other than cash, and if they are not able to reach an agreement with the seller, a court would most likely tell the teller to accept the cash payment. Bob, bring him to court. Bring him to court, Bob. Then there's a line that says mountains of coins rejected, and if you try to pay for something with a large pile of coins, you may be forced to repocket your pennies. According to the Currency Act 1965, why am I finding this so fascinating? Do I have the tiz? You cannot use more than $5 worth of any combination of 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, and 50-cent coins. Whoa, I did not know that. That's wild. So once you hit $5 worth of coins, you actually have to get a $5 note out. This is truly breaking my mind. You can also, oh my God, you also cannot use more than 10 times the value of the coin if $1 and $2 coins are offered. For example, if someone wants to pay a merchant with 5-cent coins, they can only pay up to $5 worth. Wow. That is, when they introduced that Currency Act in 1965, that had to be because there was a guy who came in with like a bag of cash. Like Ned Kelly was like, give me the biggest gun you have. There are crocodiles at my door. And they go, Ned, we can't accept this amount of coins. So you have notes. And he goes, I'll be right back. You hear 7 gunshots and he's like, I got the notes. Why? They got blood on them. What happens if you have a ripped note? Oh, I always wanted this. Professor Bateman said you must pay using the physical currency, which means any damaged bills are not technically legal tender. You need good undamaged notes and coins, he said, but banks will almost always exchange your ripped notes or damaged coins. This is kind of opening I'm becoming a crusader for cash. I've decided I'm going to Parliament and we're not talking about supermarkets. Me and Bob Catter will be talking about cash. Because cash, I've never thought about it like that, as being you're unrestricted from the banks. You're free from the banks. I've never, ever thought about cash like that. For some reason, I've never, even though banks have the money, I've never embroiled money in my mind with the banks. I'm like, yeah, I'm with it. I just don't think about it. I'm with a bank because when I was a kid, I signed up with the Dolomites, and every time I want to change banks, like that'll be $1,000. I'm like, I just can't be fucked. But now that I know that the banks have control, that's why. I mean, Jesus Christ. Guys, I always forget to tell the sponsor in this podcast, but this podcast is sponsored by Crush Organics for all your CBD product needs. Use the code Fergie for 40% off. Also, my Australian tour. I'll be in Adelaide next Friday, Canberra the following Friday. Then I will be in Melbourne for 9 nights. First weekend almost sold out. Sydney, May 8, Brisbane, June 1. It's going to be one hell of a tour. My name's Fergus Neal, and this is the Ferg Neal Show podcast.